Thanks everybody for showing up to a session. We have a very interesting topic today about how do you measure the value of your GenAI investments. Before we get into the details, a quick introduction about ourselves. I'm Jethi, part of Deloitte's engineering transformation practice, where I focus a lot of my time on engineering and strategy for FinOps for our clients. And we have Rajib here as well. I'll have Rajib do some introductions.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So my name is Rajib. I'm a GenAI architect, part of AI and data engineering practice of Deloitte for more than 3 years. So I started my career with application architecture, then moved to AI architecture, did a lot of MLOps and all, right? For more than 3 years, it's all GenAI that I'm doing, right? And today I was telling Nick that 20 minutes is very small time for sharing my more than 3 years of experience, right? But yeah, I am very active in the community, influencing a lot of the thought process on how the agents of the future should be architected, how memory architecture should be architected, how we can reduce the cost of running these agents by using some of the best practices in memory architecture, prompt caching and all, which probably I'll not be able to talk today, but we are at the booth. If anybody wants to discuss more, we can definitely discuss there.
So today we'll cover, interestingly, our point of view on how do you measure the value of GenAI, right? As many of you are starting to experiment with GenAI, some of you may be also ready to take your workloads to production. Some of you may already be in production. So we are giving you our point of view on how to take a persona-based approach where different personas are interested in different types of metrics as they're measuring value from these workloads. And then we'll also give you a sneak peek of how does this look like in action. So we'll be giving you a quick demo of our accelerator that we are calling as AgentOps that Rajib is gonna give you more details on. So before we start, what is GenAI, right? What is GenAI business value? When we talk about business value, there are tangible and intangible benefits that it brings. And what the intent is to measure the to enable strategic decision making, which is achieved by qualitative and quantitative methods. And when we look at this, it encompasses a broad range of benefits, whether it's productivity or unlocking competitive advantage, or from a C-suite standpoint, unlocking revenue growth, or from a product standpoint, looking at your customer experience. There are various levels and various elements to value that you can look at. Why it's important? It's important because when you are creating and standing up these workloads in production, they should be aligning to your strategic goals. They should be accelerating your decision making. You should be able to clearly demonstrate the ROI, especially when these workloads are in production. You should be able to eliminate any type of cost ambiguity that comes along with these new type of workloads. And you should also be able to enhance overall collaboration across your teams. That's the way we look at it, how critical it is to measure some of these value KPIs. And how you do this is simply 3 key steps. You first need to define some impactful KPIs, right? Which are clear, which are measurable, and directly tied to your business objectives. You then have to benchmark them, we typically suggest to start with some internal benchmarking that is aligned to your goals, but also set some of these compared to the competition that's outside by benchmarking to external stakeholders. And then making sure to track these with precision. That's where the observability of some of these value metrics will come into picture. With that said, we as I said before, we suggest to take a persona-based input to measuring business value. From a C-suite perspective, it would be that the C-suite would want a very clear visibility into how it impacts their business metrics, whether it's revenue-driven, whether it's margin-driven, or overall cost efficiency. If you're talking about a product owner would like to understand the features that are generating those value that they are measuring. They want to understand how the adoption is happening, whether it's increasing or changing over time with the changes that they're making, how it's impacting the usage frequency. They would also want to understand how the customer satisfaction is evolving with the changes that they are making in their workloads. From an IT finance or FinOps perspective, you definitely want to understand what are the cost drivers behind your workloads. Whether it's token-based or any other metric, you should be able, and how you are taking a more probabilistic approach to token-based from a forecasting standpoint is very critical. And you need to not only understand those key drivers, but also get into the granularity of those attributes so that you can understand how to forecast those, how to forecast your GenAI workloads. And then from an engineering or a solution architecture perspective, you need to clearly understand the performance metrics, right? Whether it's latency, your response, your error rates, so that you could better architect your workloads. So the overall theme of this slide is that you should be taking a persona-based approach. Typically, we see clients starting with the last persona because that's where the details are. However, the other personas are equally very important. With that said, I'll hand over the mic to Rajib to get into the more details.
Yeah, I have exactly 13 minutes, and I'll try to make good use of this time. So how many of you know about agents and multi-agent systems, right? How many of you in workplace are already interacting with both human and AI colleagues? And the phenomenon has just started, right? So there is not a single day I don't talk about multi-agent systems with customers, partners. But the irony is, nobody seems to converge on a good definition of agents and agencies. What I say is, stop debating about agents and agencies. Let's talk about level of agencies, right? So when we build use cases, we need to see this use case is mapped to what level of agency. When I say level of agency, it is defined by the amount of autonomy that you want to give it to a multi-agent system or an agent, right? And there are 6 levels of agency. Probably I'll not be able to talk about those agencies here, but we can talk about later, right? But whatever be the level of agencies, underneath this multi-agent systems or an agent, which is the atomic unit of a multi-agent system, the core part of it's a semantic engine. It's a probabilistic model run by a foundation model, right? And the periphery makes it agentic, right? So it is going to be probabilistic. It is going to hallucinate when you run these applications. Now, a lot of people say that, oh, hallucination is a defect. Well, hallucination is not a defect. Hallucination is a side effect of the most important capability that these language models are having. You take the hallucination out, you probably don't need to use language model, right? So what do you do in this case? When I develop this multi-agent systems, then I need to control the hallucination part of it, and that is one part, and also observe that when I'm running it in production, that I'm able to see if they're always able to give me the right output for which I have deployed them, right? So when I talk about observability of multi-agent systems, what do we observe? And the reason I initially asked, like, how many of you are working with human colleagues and AI colleagues, there is a reason for that, right? So human colleagues are apprised on certain performance metrics, right? This AI colleagues, also when we start using them, you need to apprise them, right? Now there are 3 categories on which we say that we should measure the performance of these agents. The 3rd category is interesting. Probably humans are not measured on that. The first category is your operational efficiency, right? When I deploy these agents in production, are these agents or multi-agent systems running at a cost-effective manner and with the expected latency that I have actually initially benchmarked it with, right? Is it actually, so, and this is very interesting, and why I say it is a little different from traditional observability, right? So in a product, when a multi-agent system, if 2 agents start talking to each other, right? And if you don't control it, right? That will be unbounded compute, right? They will keep on like generating tokens. They might have like, okay, 4 agents, 3 agents, 5 agents talking to each other, then your cost goes up, right? So that's why the operational efficiency, it is very important to track and monitor that. Second is your output efficiency. And the output efficiency is, again, depends on the use case which you have developed that multi-agent system. For example, if it's a summarization agent, one of the output metrics can be the fluency of the output or the relevance of the output, right? So that is the second category of efficiencies that we measure, right? Now there is another thing that I wanted to say here is, this output metrics are very, very important, right? We don't just look at it from a technical perspective. For example, if the accuracy, which is, let's say, one of the output KPIs, is 90%, but the business outcome, which may be average handling time, is not changing, that means there is no use of tracking that particular metrics, right? I should be able to map the technical outcome to my business outcome as well, right? That is output efficiency. Third one, which I said is, probably humans are not apprised on that. We call it thought efficiency. What is thought efficiency? So when these agents converse with each other or converse with human, or they use a tool, there is a thought trajectory, right? We call it chain of thought, right? What is the efficiency of that quality of thought? Are they actually choosing the tool in 10 turns, 5 turns, or 2 turns? More turns, that means they're deviating, right? Their thought process is deviating. Maybe there is something that I can do to reduce that multi-turn or that turn of thoughts and increase the efficiency, right? So that is the thought efficiency. Now, how do we, so far I have talked about what we need to monitor, right? How do we monitor? There are 3 pillars to that. Any multi-agent systems, right? And it is not a new thing that I'm saying, right? People who are here from microservices-based architecture already know about that, right? Telemetry, right? We used to use Zipkin, Jaeger, like when you used to microservices. Here it is no different, right? You need instrumentation. You need to instrument it with telemetry. So as they are running, the telemetry should be able to capture the logs, traces, and the spans, push it into a central observability layer. I should be able to create aggregations on top of it, and then I should be able to monitor all the 3 categories of metrics that I just spoke about, right? So I was very lucky, since I said, like, I started almost 3 years back. I built some of this observability layer from the scratch. At that time, there are no products in the market. Now there are a lot of products, right? So this is one of the things that we now have an accelerator. This is based on the experience that I had with building such type of thing, right? So what it is showing is, in the production, when like the first screen was showing all the agents that are running and what is the accuracy, cost, and latency from all the runs, right? When I clicked on it, I can go to a particular agent now, and then I can also see what is the operational output and the thought efficiency for that particular agent. And this is not magic, right? People, again, like who are coming from microservices-based architecture, right? You'll know that we can collect the telemetry, and the telemetry has all the raw metrics. We are just aggregating it and doing the drill downs, right? The approach sometimes is a little different, because here the telemetry needs to capture not only the input, output, the context, and some additional metadata, right? So the other thing that that is going to come here is, we built something called a prompt analytics, right? So what prompt analytics does is, all the prompts that are going into the multi-agent system, we create a word cloud of that, right? What it tells us is what type of interactions, AI or human or process or AI interaction is happening. Are there any prompt injection pattern happening, right? What are the important topics, or what are the popular topics people are talking about? As we speak, right now it's a word cloud. We're changing it to topic clusters. And there is a algorithm that we are using called CLIO, Clio, from Anthropic. It's like privacy-preserving topic clustering, where you take the prompts, remove the PII data from it, and use KNN to do the clustering and then use that cluster and then see as for each cluster, what are the prompts that are getting generated. The other important thing about this view is, from this view, I can find out which prompts are very expensive for me, right? Is there a way for me to take that prompt and do prompt compression, right? Prompt compression is one of the techniques through which you can reduce your prompt size but still get the same amount of output, right? Or same quality of output. So this is what we have developed, and I have 4 more minutes. I like to open up for questions, but there are many things that we have learned in last 3 years. I'm very passionate in this area, so if any of you want to discuss, we can definitely discuss outside also. But now I'll open it up for any questions that you might have.
Oops, we have a question here. There you go.
What are the most expensive prompts that you've seen with customers?
What are the most
expensive prompts?
Okay, so yeah, there is not a definite answer for that, right? But see, when we create these prompts, right? How do you ensure that your prompts are tuned, right? Like before you, even if you put it into production. So there is a concept called prompt registry, right? Where we say that a prompt lifecycle management needs to be different from your code lifecycle management, right? You should be able to test your prompt so that you later do not discover that your prompt is expensive, right? You should be able to test out the prompt without writing a piece of code, right? And then see if it is aligned. So we call it Goldilocks zone of cost, latency, and accuracy, right? These 3 things needs to come together, and then you say, okay, I'm now ready to deploy it in production, right? So as I said, like, it is not like there is no definitive answer what is expensive, but the prompts where you are putting that entire context, which is also not a very good practice, right? Because these LLMs are stochastic parrots, right? They don't understand, they don't have the world model like we have. That's why we have retrieval mechanism. We need to retrieve the right context, the very fine context, and give it to the LLM to give an answer. So yeah, so these are some of the design principles that we need to do. But yeah, I have seen people putting a 200,000 tokens as a context to the prompt and giving the LLM to answer, right? Which may not be best practice, and some of them actually makes your prompt expensive, and the quality also of the output also not very good. Yeah.
Hi. How do you, at a high level, how do you get the cost data for each prompt?
Okay. So whenever you ask any question to LLM, right, there is a, it gives you what is the input token and the output token that is generated. Input token is your prompt, right? So it will say, okay, these are the number of tokens, right? And when it gives you an output, then it's output token. Most of the providers have different cost for input tokens. For example, they'll say, okay, 0.008 cents per 1,000 tokens, right, for input tokens. For output tokens, they'll say 0.032 cents per output tokens. So we captured that. When I spoke about telemetry at the time, so when we designed the telemetry, we designed a response schema also. So we mandated everybody that whenever you send the response to telemetry through my centralized observability later, you need to also capture this input token and output token, send that to me as well, right? Then we have a cost model, right? So if it is Anthropic, the cost model is different. If it is OpenAI, it is different. If it is another AI21, the cost model is different. So we have that model, and then you can, it's just after a multiplication, it's an arithmetic game. Yeah.
Well, Nikhil and Rajib, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. Let's give them a round of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Hey everyone, producer Andrew here. Thank you so much for watching and for your support. For more FinOps X 2025 content, go check out our YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and leave comments and questions for all of our wonderful speakers. We appreciate your support.